Simple engine breaking through the scene. 3D visions like a vivid tree. Communication flowing, engineers on the track. Rendering the future, ain't no turning back. Transportation this new era, it's a beautiful sight.
Hello and welcome to Civil Visualizing with Sam. This is episode 0. I am the founder of Beyond CAD Incorporated. We are the creator of Beyond Typicals, and we have a new tool called Civil Engine that I'm debuting right now. And this is an alpha version. We're still months away from public launch, but it has gotten far enough along that I want to start showing what this product can do with your designs. One of the key differences of Civil Engine is that you need to have a base model before you get started. With Beyond Typicals, you don't need anything. There are pre-made sections. You just drag and drop them to create your road. Not the case with Civil Engine. You have to have a base model. We recommend using something out of SketchUp or InfraWorks. But we do support OBJ and FBX files within Civil Engine. All right, so this is SketchUp here, and this is our base model that we're going to use today for this episode. This is an elevated rail, and we have some elevated ramps. This is probably not based on an actual design. You can see some exaggerated vertical curves here. I don't think that's how it would be on a real project, but this should be a really good example of how you can go from base model here in SketchUp to fully visualize within Civil Engine. And your SketchUp model might look something like this. It doesn't have to be exact colors, but you do want everything to be matching. So you want everything that you want to be a certain type of grass. You want to be the same color or texture within SketchUp. Same with concrete or asphalt. You can see here this concrete is tinted red. So in Civil Engine we can respect that, and that will do it for all of the surfaces here in SketchUp that are tinted red all at the same time. Another thing I want to point out as well is, if possible, you want to make sure your base model is somewhere around the origin point here, which is 0, 0, 0. You're going to have the best results bringing it into Civil Engine if that's the case. If you're bringing in some sort of survey data or ORD, it may come in far away from the origin, but we want to relocate it here to the origin as much as possible. In the future, we may have better tools in Civil Engine for respecting geo-coordinates, but for now, just make sure it's at the origin point. All right, so once we're ready with our base model, then we want to go File, Export. My drop-down is showing up in the other screen. And we want to do this just elevated rail freeway as an OBJ is fine. And when we go to options, we just need to make sure that it's whatever unit it is here in SketchUp, it needs to match in Civil Engine. You can also export the texture maps. So if there's some sort of texture image in SketchUp, Civil Engine will respect that if this is checkmarked, but you don't have to always do that depending on what you're doing. All right, so we say OK, and we go to export. All right, so here in the other screen, it's showing writing entities, and we have around 30,000 faces, and we're good to go in Civil Engine. All right, when you open Civil Engine, it should look something like this, though again, this is an alpha version. We're several months away from launch, and so it may look different in some aspects. Down here at the bottom, we have several options. We have import base model, browse files. This is going to show a list of files that you've been working on. It's kind of a recent files list. Create project if you just want to jump straight into a blank scene, or you can view a list of example projects if you want to just explore what you can do with Civil Engine. We're going to cancel, go back, and we're going to do import base model. And we're going to find that file. Right now it's FBX. We're going to switch to OBJ. And this is our import menu. We're going to leave everything default, but I do need to make sure this is centimeters because that was our export in SketchUp. Then we do finish import. And then here we go. I'm going to scroll back a little bit to see it. And now here we are. Just a quick note on navigation. If you right click, it's going to rotate. This is similar to the rotate with the middle wheel click on SketchUp. If you do left click with your mouse button, that's going to pan. And then if you do middle wheel click, that's going to go up and down. You can also zoom in and out with the middle scroll wheel. And if you are far away, a really good way to zoom in is double right click. This is really handy for getting around your project. All right, just a quick overview of the menu. Down here in the bottom left, we have some camera controls. We'll go over those more in depth in future episodes. But over here on the right, this is going to be where all of our functions are. We have importing base model. If we needed to bring in other pieces of our base model, we could do it here. We could also import other assets. If we had maybe a specific type of light pole, we could bring that in from OBJ or FBX there. This next one is our asset library. We have over 700 assets. We also have dynamic assets, which we will get into in future episodes, and expansion packs as well. This is our path system. We'll get into that in just a little bit. One of the most powerful parts of Civil Engine. Areas similar to paths. This is our hierarchy. Traffic is still in the early stages now, so we won't be focusing on that here in this project, in this episode. Environment, this is the sky, the time of day. You can also adjust the brightness if it's too dark. Phasing, settings, example projects. Again, we can hop in and out of those here. This is our basic rendering. And let's go back to hierarchy. So if we have paths that are placed, they'll show up here. Assets will show up here. Right now we just have our base model and we want to drop down, and now we can see all the submesh components. So if we select those, you can see that's all of the surfaces that have that texture applied to it. And so we know that this is a concrete. So over here on the left dialog box, we want to click this paintbrush, and now we can use the material library from Civil Engine, which is a library of more realistic textures than what you'll get in SketchUp or InfraWorks. So we can try those different textures and see which one we want for this project. It may take a minute just to load them. Again, this one's kind of brown. Let's go back to just use that first one. I think that's going to be fine for this project. We'll continue to go down through this list. So this is an asphalt. So let's go here, and we have a bunch of type of asphalt. We have some cracked that are more realistic. Or if you want something that's more fresh, we have a couple of those options as well. Most of the time I like to use the asphalt cracked one. We have dark, light, and green. Let's use light for this example. And then let's continue on. This is a grass. So we will go here and let's switch to grass 1. Should be fine.
Construction sites glow with first shore design. Blueprints come alive, drawing lines so fine. Mountains and structures throw back to the days. But now with tech we got bridges and highways brought to life and code. Innovation flowing, pages to load. Paper to pixels, evolution on display. Feel up, how pushing boundaries away.
All right, so now we have the surfaces textured, and we're going to continue visualizing our project. We have some striping in here from SketchUp, which may be the case. You may want to do the sketching on your base the striping on your base model, or you may want to clean it up in Civil Engine, which is possible. It's a good time to talk about the path system, which is over here on the right. And we're going to use the paths to clean up the pavement markings and for other elements of our visualization. So you can see here we have some solid white striping, and we also have some dashed down the middle. So we have dashed short, medium, and long. Let's use long. And this is flat, and so this is going to be pretty easy to place these. So here we go. We place this path. Again, we only need 2 nodes because this is flat, but we can adjust the parameters of this path over here. Let's say we wanted 40 feet spacing, but we wanted longer stripes. So down here you can see this is 10 and this is 8. The 10 represents how long the stripe is, and the 8 represents the width. So let's have this be a 10-inch wide. You can see it got wider then. And then let's do this at 15 foot long. So now we have 15-foot long stripes, 40-foot spacing off center. And let's do that over here on the other side as well. All right, so now we have our striping, and you can use these pavement markings for all sorts of things. We'll use them more in the future, but it's not just stripes. We could also do something like a crosswalk if we needed to. We can do arrows and many more things. And again, those will show over here in the hierarchy. And so let's delete those. And we're going to select all of these and we're going to right click and say wrap with folder. So now we can name this folder striping. And we can lock this so that the selector nodes don't show up when we are working in the editor in Civil Engine. All right, looking at my clock, we're in about 22 minutes so far. Now we're going to continue with the paths. Let's go back to paths over here. And before I do that, let me just show how paths differ from placing assets normally. If I wanted, we could go to library assets and we're going to place some trees. And let's do these maple trees. So we can do these maple trees here and we just select it and then we just click them. And then we want to do a couple different types of maple trees to give some variety. And if it's not bright enough, you can always just change the time of day or the lighting to get the look that you need. All right, so you can see we added those maple trees like that. But let's say we want to add maple trees along the line, then we go to path and we go to vegetation. Then we can do trees. Let's just do the standard trees. We place nodes like this. And this is how powerful the path system is. Once this is placed, you can place multiple assets along that path. You can adjust which assets are assigned to the path. You can add or remove nodes. And as a note, if you're not in the paths or you're not in the hierarchy, you won't be able to select this path. So right now, I can't select it unless I select the selector icon. But once you have that path selected, you'll see over here, this dialog box opens up and we can adjust the parameters. And so we can adjust the spacing of those trees. We can adjust the offset either internally, or we can do internally is just like minor adjustments, or we can do external where it's more of an offset. And you'll notice these aren't the maple trees that we were using as from before. Let me just double check. Maple tree 4 maybe. So let's select that. We search here, maple, and then it's just going to show those maple trees here. You can see those are too big and too tightly spaced. So we can spread them out, or we can use a different tree. All right, you can see now that we have those maple trees and they're spaced. And another note about the vegetation is whenever you place them, either individually placed or along a path, they're automatically going to be slightly adjusted in the scale and the rotation so that they look more organic. And that's definitely by design. All right, so I'm going to spend just a few more minutes adding trees, and then we will move on to the traffic.
Simple engineering rules so clear. Bring it in the future. Let's engineer. Proceeds that becomes.
And again, just as a note, when you place these paths, you can make adjustments afterwards. They're very dynamic. So you can see here this tree is conflicting. So we could do a few things. We could add more nodes if we needed to try and move that around. Or it might just be the easiest thing. Let's delete that node to just go ahead and do longitudinal offset. And that's just going to move those kind of along that line. Let's move this one back. And now we're good to go.
Engine breaking through the scene. 3D visions like a vivid dream. Communication flowing, engineers on the track. Rendering the future, ain't no turning back. Taking this new era, it's a beautiful sight. Tools of precision, shining in the light. Visualize the city, build sky high. East Coast hustle, reachable sky. Simple engine making moves so clear. Bring in the future, let's engineer. Brothers on the run, never waver. Rendering the change with new flavor. Construction sites flow with first shore design. Blueprints come alive, one line so fine. Models and structures throw back to the days, but now with tech we got bridges and highways brought to life and code. Innovation flowing, pages to load. Paper to pixels, evolution on display. Feel up, power pushing boundaries away. Simple engineering moves so clear. Bring it in the future, let's engineer. Proceeds paper codes run, we aspire. Build in the dream, the vision to Engine breaking through the scene. 3D visions like a vivid dream. Communication flowing, engineers on the track. Rendering the future, ain't no turning back. Taking this new era, it's a beautiful sight. Jewels of precision, shining in the light. Visualize the city, build sky high. East Coast hustle, reachable sky. Simple engine making moves so clear. Bring in the future, let's engineer. Brothers on the rhyme, never waver. Rendering the change with new flavor. Construction sites slow with first shore design. Blueprints come alive, one line so fine. Models and structures throw back to the days. But now with tech we got bridges and highways brought to life.
All right, so I've placed trees and I've placed bushes and grass. You can see here by placing grass in this water area, it just looks much more natural and organic, which is a lot of times what I'm going for. Also placed a lot of trees here, and then I went to the hierarchy and they all show up, and then I organize them. And this way we can lock them. If you don't lock them, you're going to just see a ton of these selector icons. It's just going to get really busy. And so put them in a folder, lock them, and you won't have to deal with that. One other tip, if you're working and you place a lot of trees and it's slowing down your project because you don't have the GPU to handle it, then you can always just go to turn them off and work in that way. That way you're going to have a lot better frame rates while you're working, and then you can always turn them back on when you're presenting or making a render in the future. So we'll just go ahead and lock those. And also I place these all one by one. Currently we don't have a brush placement system, but we should by launch. So future videos will cover how that works. One other thing I want to note too is I placed a slab to extend this all the way out to the end. And so it's a little bit more advanced, but you can go to dynamic assets and we have these shapes: box, cylinder, slab, sphere, and so on. When you create these, you can adjust, you can choose which texture you want. And so this one, I changed it to that asphalt texture to match the other ones. And then I placed it all the way to the end, edge to edge. I also did it to cover up the striping because we're going to need to do some striping here on these ramps. And the way it was done in SketchUp, the stripes, the solid stripes went all the way through, which is not how it would be in reality. So now we need to do some more stripes using the path system and the pavement markings here on the side. So I'll go ahead and do that now.
Jewels of precision, shining in the light. Visualize the city, build sky high. East Coast hustle, reachable sky. Simple engine making moves so clear. Bring in the future, let's engineer. Brothers on the rhyme, never waver. Rendering the change with new flavor. Construction sites slow with first shore design. Blueprints come alive, one line so fine. Models and structures throw back to the days. But now with tech we got bridges and highways brought to life and code. Innovation flowing, pages to load. Paper the pixels, evolution on display. Feel up, how pushing boundaries away. Simple engineering.
All right, so I spent about a half an hour placing the striping. Again, this part of the process is not going to take as long if you do the striping in your base model in SketchUp, but we do have that option here in Civil Engine, and you can see the stripes, they end up looking pretty good. I could probably tweak them a little bit, but for the most part, I think they're looking really nice. And again, they show up in the hierarchy, all these paths do. Let's take all these bushes and trees that I placed earlier, wrap with folder, and then all this striping, let's drag it into the striping folder. And then again, if you want to turn that on and off to see it, we could turn that on and off to see what it looks like with the striping and without it, just like that. And we're going to lock it so that we don't see all those selector nodes. You can do the same thing for the trees. So once everything's locked, then it's just going to be a lot easier to look around your model. You can see this is starting to really come together, but we do need traffic. And so the way you do that is again with these paths. Up here at the top, number one, traffic PEDs. We have not as much PEDs on this project, but we do have some rail. So we'll do that first. And to do that, we're going to do Let's do high-speed rail right here. And then we just place the nodes like you would on anything else. And you can turn the path visualizers on and off. I'm going to turn it on while I place this, and then I'll show you what happens when we turn it off later. All right, so we placed that rail there. Now let's do one the other direction. All right, so once those are placed, you can select those paths and you can adjust the speed, the traffic density, and so on. So if we really wanted to make these cruise, we could do 80, and you can do the same thing with other types of traffic. You can also customize the rail. We won't do it in this example, but look for that in future Composing with Sam or future episodes or tutorial videos. All right, so now we want to, let's slow that down. That's a little fast. All right, so now we want to place our traffic. And again, the traffic system's still under development. This is alpha phase. And so one of the limitations is we don't have articulating trucks, and that's very noticeable around curves. But it should be good enough for the purposes of this video. And you can see here, when you place the traffic, they're blue. These, we call these path visualizers. And one thing that's really nice about Civil Engine, and something that we've worked hard on, is the fact that you have these, turn off the path visualizers, and you can see we have wear paths. And don't mind all the vehicles coming around. Actually, we're going to remove the vehicles from this by going here, and we'll just say all traffic, we'll just say none. You can see we have these wear paths that really add to the realism, in addition to our photorealistic texturing system. So I'm going to continue placing traffic. Again, you can do it with the visualizers on or off. It's going to be easier with them on. Whatever's selected is going to be the bright blue. The other ones, they'll be more of a muted color.
Line so fine, models and structures throw back to the days, but now with tech we got bridges and highways brought to life and code. Innovation flowing, K is the load. Pay for the pixels, evolution on display. Feel up, how pushing boundaries away. Simple engineering moves so clear. We're bringing in the future. Let's engineer. Proceeds that becomes run. We aspire, building a dream, the vision to fly.
All right, so now we've placed these traffic paths. One note on those wear paths too is you can turn them off whenever you want. Every time there's a path, you assign assets to them using these asset slots. So you can see asset slot number 1 is traffic. And again, you can see which one's selected by whichever one's the bluest. But then here we have asset slot number 2 is the wear paths. And so if you wanted to, you could just say none, or you could remove slot, and that's going to remove the wear paths if you don't want those. Also, you can see we have traffic all over the place. Again, this is preliminary, so we don't have a ton of control yet, but I am going to control the speed on a lot of these, so, and the traffic density. Again, this first one we'll just leave traffic off. This one, let's turn the speed down, maybe 25, and then our traffic volume down to 1. We'll do the same with these other ones to try and get it so traffic just looks and feels a little bit more realistic. All right, and again, you can turn those path visualizers on and off down here in the bottom right using this icon. And now you're starting to see how we went from that base model in SketchUp that didn't look realistic at all to something much more photorealistic here within Civil Engine. This project isn't huge on pedestrians, but that's something that's easy to place as well, and we'll cover that more in future episodes. But if you need to, you can always select from here. We have something like a cyclist. Again, I'll turn on the path visualizer. You can see those ones are green. We have shared use which is kind of greenish blue, and then we have pedestrians, which is these yellow paths. And so that's for easy identification. Each of those can be controlled individually like we just showed with the traffic. I'm also going to go ahead and put all the traffic into a folder, rename traffic, put the high-speed rail into a folder, and that way we can turn those on and off as necessary as well. All right, so cameras. We have more advanced camera options down here in the bottom left using the publisher. We aren't going to do that today. We're going to go with the more basic rendering here in the bottom right using this red circle. And we can choose where we want the folder, where we want the files to be rendered to. Let's turn off our visualizers. We can do some simple pan movements here with pan. Let's go right. And then we can do 4K. Let's maybe do one quality sample per frame. Let's make this 20 seconds long. I like 60 frames per second. Quality, high is fine. And then we can go to record video. All right, so this was about 90 minutes of work. This is the final production. If this was an actual project, we would probably do some more cleanup and tweaking, but hopefully you can see how you can go from a base model in something like SketchUp or InfraWorks to fully rendered visualization or interactive visualization in a very short period of time because of the efficiencies that we've made possible using Civil Engine. I'm in 2024. This is still alpha. If you're watching this now or if you're watching this in the future and you're interested in learning more about this, reach out to me. You can go to beyondtypicals.com/Civil Engine. You can also go to beyondcad.com/Civil Engine. You can also go to beyondcad.com, click on the contact us link, reach out if you're interested in this product and would like to learn more. I'd love to jump on a call with you. My name is Sam Lytle. I am the founder and creator of BeyondCAD Incorporated. We're a software publisher, and I will see you in the next one.
Engineer, proceeds paper codes run. We aspire, build in the dream.